So on Monday, I was talking a little bit about how I wanted to rename the Friday Stitch With Me video. I gather from some other people's comments that that I'm not the only one having trouble with YouTube demonetizing videos. Apparently it's quite common. Other people are having trouble as well. So it could be the name, could not be the name, who knows. I was pointed in the direction. There's a stitcher in Toronto. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name off the top of my head, but pointed me in the direction of some very helpful videos. So anyways, I don't think it's me. I think it's them. And but I have a new name anyways. Figured we'd give it a try. And I thought it was kind of fun. Crafty Kim she's also another Canadian stitcher who I've met, and I'm hopefully going to be getting together with her again very soon. Crafty Kim had a suggestion for us for an Instagram group hashtag for us to use when we're all stitching together. It doesn't matter when you're joining in with the Friday night stitch party, but we are going to use the hashtag Off the Grid Friday Party. So if you use that hashtag on Instagram and you want to post what you're working on while we're stitching together, then everybody can have a look-see, and it's a nice group feeling. And also, thanks to Crafty Kim, I am going to rename these Friday videos just Friday Off the Grid. And I thought that was pretty good. So thank you, Kim. I thought your suggestions were great. And I had quite a few really good suggestions. Kim just happened to be first. And, you know, sometimes when you hear something first before anything else and it just sort of seems right, then that's what I'm going to go with. So, let's see what else before we get started here today. So we have an Instagram hashtag for those that want to join in to that group. I'm also thinking of maybe starting a Facebook group as well, because I know full well that not everybody's on Instagram, but lots of people who aren't on Instagram are on Facebook. And so maybe if we had a closed group, there's a, I don't know, we could just call it also Friday Off the Grid. We could just keep it the same name and have it as a closed group. So let me know what you think. And if, you know, if there's a lot of interest, then I'll start up a group. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I am ready to go here. I know I say this every time, but it's true. It doesn't get old. This is so fun. I look forward to this all week long. It's kind of, it gives me an excuse to, you know, to sit down. Oh, I have to sit down for a little bit of time and record this video. You know, it's a real hardship. So I told John, you know, I need quiet for the next little while because I have to sit down and stitch. So just don't bother me. Isn't that funny? Oh, so I have my Christmas blanket. I'm ready to go. I'm in my chair and I've got my floor frame, and I may even be wearing yoga pants. Let's face it, of course I'm wearing yoga pants because, well, it's time to stitch and relax, right? So I mentioned on Monday, I'm going to be working again today on my Prairie Schooler. And I know there's at least one more Friday stitcher, Kathy, who's also, she's just pulled out her Prairie Schooler Woodland Santas as well, and she's working on them. And I know there's more than one. I know there's more than just Kathy. So pipe up in the comments and let's hear what you're stitching. Lots of large scale designs, some heaven and earth designs, some mirabilias, lots of holiday stitching, different things going on. So it's so fun, isn't it? Isn't it nice? So I did not do a little roadmap before I started because I figured, well, I'm mostly working on the reindeer's backside and I know, you know, pretty much where I'm going. So I'm going to just load my needle up and we'll get going. So that's another thing that I wanted to sort of talk about today. When I have the camera, you know, right in front of my face here like this, I can sort of show you things a little more closely. I wanted to talk a little bit about needles because I know that I have my preferences, and I was curious to know what you guys think and whether one needle is overwhelmingly more popular than another, or whether just like us as human beings, we're all as varied as you know as anything. So I have three needle types that I tend to sort of, cycle through. My favorites have got to be the John James. These tapestry needles. These are the ones that I buy most frequently, and then I'll lose a package, and so I'll buy another package most times that I'm at Thread and I, because, well, you don't ever want to be without a needle. That would be disastrous. So the John James, you can buy them in bulk of 25 needles. I suspect you can probably buy them in hundreds as well. But, well, I haven't gone that route yet. My friends Adrian and Virtuti, I think it was Adrian and Virtuti, bought a lot of 500 needles. Actually, Audrey may have been in that as well. They purchased a set of 500 needles of the petites, the little short ones, and I think they shared those amongst themselves. But I've never been a fan of the petite needle. I think my hands maybe are, my fingers are too long. I'm not quite sure, because when I knit socks, I prefer a teeny tiny little circular needle, and it's very, very small and fine. But when it comes to needle length, I prefer the full size. So the John James are my favorite, and I love them in this little 25 pack. The other needles that I quite like, that I use a lot of, are these DMC tapestry needles as well. 28 is my favorite size, and I tend to use that no matter what fabric count that I'm using. I use the 28. I rarely use a 26. My daughter was using a 26 when she first started on Ada and Even Weave when she was young. She doesn't really stitch anymore, but I'm hoping that one day she'll come back to it. So she has some 26s that I have used in, desperation if I couldn't find anything else, but I really prefer the 28s. A few weeks ago, someone on Instagram was using these Bowen needles, and I had never tried them before. And when I went to Thread and I a few weeks ago, they had them there for sale, and I'd never noticed them before. Isn't that funny? You can walk past something a million times and never notice it, and then when you go in there and you've seen it somewhere else, and all of a sudden it's brand new and you've just never noticed it before. So I thought that was quite funny. And Kathy Thread and I said, "Oh, we've had those there forever. You just never saw them." So anyways, so I have given these a really good try, and I have to say, for the type of work that I generally do, they're not my favorites. And not because they're a bad needle by any stretch of the imagination. It's a beautiful needle. But I find that the tip is just a little bit more blunt than the John James or even the DMC. John James has probably got the sharpest tip. And again, it's a tapestry needle, so it is slightly blunt at the top. But the Bowen needles I found were quite blunt. And when you are doing 40 count, one thread over two, or, especially the really small counts, like 28 count, one thread over one hole, it can be very difficult to end your thread in the back. And these ones, I just found I was really struggling with sewing in the back, and just that slightly sharper tip of the James needle, did the trick, and sort of, for me, I just really prefer them. Anyways, leave me some comments. Let me know what you prefer, because I find it fascinating, and I enjoy that kind of conversation that that we as stitchers can have about these, these things that other people really just don't understand at all, do they? So, I have my McDreamy needle minder today with I think these are John James on the back here, and I've got my blanket and I've got my coffee and I'm ready to go. So you may remember from last week that I discovered I was using the wrong color in my the leg of my reindeer. So I have corrected that now, and that is now the correct color, which was a dark brown and not a gray, which I was bemoaning the fact, but it's now fixed. So that's ready to go. And the color that I'm using, the DMC that it's called for, is 611. For the majority of the reindeer. How do you keep your floss when you're stitching and you have extra floss? I'm a bit particular about how I like to do things, and I think most of us are, aren't we? We all share that in common, I think. I tend to keep my DMC on bobbins, and I label the number. And then when I'm working on a project, I will generally keep that bobbin, sort of out on my table, and I'll have my length of floss that I'm working from. And then, as I've said a few times now, I tend to cheat and I use one really long strand when it's 2 strands of DMC. If it's something like this, it's full coverage and no one's going to see it. But then, of course, I've got this extra floss, and in order to not get it all muddled up with the rest of the floss that's out there, I just roll it around my fingers into a neat little circle, and then I tuck it on top of the one that it matches, and then I'll just leave that on my side table for the duration of time that I'm stitching. What do you do? I do find it interesting finding out what other people do, because generally we don't, it's a very solitary hobby, isn't it? And we do not spend a lot of time sort of noticing what other people are doing, or, I don't know about you or the majority of stitchers, but I was certainly self-taught from the time I was a teenager. My mother, we went to the museum in the small town where I grew up, and they were having some sort of display, some sort of exhibit on, not a textile exhibit, but, sort of olden days, olden times, crafts and toys and things that there's always a dog hair. There's always a dog hair, sort of tucked into the fibers here. Anyways, so, they were talking about things that young girls would do, things that they were expected to learn and things like that. And of course, needlepoint and embroidery was a big part of that. And so in the gift shop, they were selling sort of reproduction kits of certain, simple patterns that a girl might have worked on. Certainly not, sort of the sampler type project that we associate with young girls learning to do, sort of the Ackworth school of style of sampler that is very popular and very gorgeous. Oh, gorgeous. One day I will stitch an Ackworth sampler in my free time, right? Anyway, So my mother purchased for me a kit to do a pincushion design. And that was the very first thing that I stitched. And my mom didn't, I'm not sure my mom knew how to cross stitch at that time. She does now, but I'm not sure she knew how to do it at the time. But I followed the directions that came with the kit. And I can still remember to this day that I had made a mistake somewhere, and I couldn't find the mistake. I couldn't find it anywhere. And it was so frustrating as a teenager, with no one to ask for help and no one, to tell me sort of where I'd gone wrong. But I could not get the pattern to line up around the outside. And it was sort of Quaker motif. And I just couldn't figure out where I'd gone wrong. And so that project took me, I'm going to say, it probably took me like 2 years from the time I started it to the time that I actually finished it into a pincushion, because I found it so frustrating. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted so badly for this pattern to be perfect. And in the end, I had to end up fudging it because I just couldn't find the mistake. I couldn't find where I'd gone wrong. So I finished it into a pincushion. That was the very first project that I ever did. And then a number of years later, after I'd been stitching for, I'm going to say I'd been stitching for 20 years, I rediscovered that original pattern that I'd had as a kid. And I thought, for my own, sort of memento, I'm going to restitch this little design and have a keepsake for myself. So I did that. And, with the years of crafting that I've done and my experience now as, a mature woman, where that mistake was? The mistake was in the pattern. The mistake was not with me. I had not made that error all those years ago. The mistake was with the pattern. But of course, my eye back then never would have, I guess it could have if I'd thought about it, but I'd never caught the mistake on the pattern. And I thought that was so funny because I remembered being so frustrated by that. And then how quickly my eye spotted it as an adult. And I wish I could have gone back and said, it's okay. There's the mistake right there. Just do this and it'll be fine. And then you can carry on. And maybe it won't take you 2 years to finish it. Anyway. So what was your very first project? Do you remember? Did you learn as a kid? Or were you an adult when you first picked it up for the first time? After I did that pincushion, I don't think I did any more. I think my next project was a dimensions kit. And I was probably 19. And I was away at university. And it was a wedding sampler that I was stitching for my cousin and his wife-to-be. And that was my second project. And it was not small. It was a big one. And I remember it because it had, you guys might even know which kit I'm talking about. It was a wedding sampler where you had the date and the names of the couple being married, and then on either side of the lettering were sort of 2 topiary trees on both sides of the design, and a lot of back stitching. The back stitching, and I think dimension kits really are. There's always a lot of backstitching in those dimensions kits. And I can remember working on that every spare moment I had. And that was when I really, discovered that this was this was a hobby that I just loved. I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever done. So I moved on. I did finish that dimensions kit, and I had it framed for the couple for their wedding. I think I may have been a little bit late, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that, tradition is as long as you give a gift within the first year of marriage, I think you're okay. I'm pretty sure I was within the first year. And after that, I think I did another kit that was, sort of garden flowers and herbs that I gave to my sister-in-law for her bridal shower. That was the next project that I did. I think I did a few kits. And then it was when I was pregnant with my daughter that I had decided to do her bedroom with Winnie the Pooh characters. And I had found a booklet of patterns. And there was one really, really large design. And then there were 4 smaller designs that sort of went around it. And I wanted, I discovered that there was a store in town where I lived here in London. And I thought, well, I'm going to go there for my supplies because maybe they have this larger piece of fabric that I need. And that was the very first time that I walked into Thread and I and started a very long, very dear to me friendship with the owners of that shop, Kathy and Neil. So my daughter is now 16 and a half, and I was pregnant with her when I met them for the first time. So I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I've been very, very fortunate that I've made some really, really wonderful friends through their shop and, connections that I've made in this city with other people who share the same passion. It is kind of a passion, isn't it? I mean, we are all rather fond of what we do, aren't we? All right, look at that. I think that's the end of that one. The weather here has been very, very gray and raining and wet the last, how long? I don't know, a week? Feels like it's been longer than a week. But I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. I really just wish we'd get our snow and have the nice snow, because it's, time to get ready for the holidays, isn't it? I have started planning my decorations for the house. If you've noticed, I showed you a little sneak peek at the beginning of this video of some show and tell that I have already planned out to share with you on Monday. And oops, about to thread a little dog hair into my needle there. I gave you a little sneak peek of some show and tell that I've got for Monday, and it's another Christmas canvas piece that I stitched a number of years ago. And Kathy and Neil actually used it as a shop model for, I don't know, 2 years? I think it was 2 years. And, I didn't really miss it, and I was happy to visit it at their store. But then last year, I can't remember why, I finally remembered it in time to bring it home for Christmas time. And this is actually the first year that I'm hanging it up in my own home in time for the holiday season. So it is a counted canvas piece, and it is also a Nancy's Needle design. And I believe she comes out with a Christmas tree canvas design every year. I'm not mistaken. And they're all beautiful. That was the second one that I'd done. So I'll give you a better look on Monday. And then the week after that, I'll show you the other one that I've done. Canvas pieces, I know I've said this before, but they just work up so quickly. So really, I should be done that Starry Skies by now, shouldn't I? But I'm not. Because, I just can't concentrate on one thing. But that's okay. It's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. And that's what I love about this hobby, is that I can work on whatever I want. When the mood strikes, I have a project that usually fits that mood, which is pretty nice. And right now I'm really in a Christmas mood. Santas and the colors of the season, which I just love. I was actually just at Thread and I a couple of days ago. Many of you, I think, know of Heidi, who has the floss tube video Stitching 1/2 and is just the nicest person you've ever met. I have been so lucky. Since I started doing this podcast, I've met Heidi, and I've met Crafty Kim, and I've met Joanne, who lives just down the road. And I have talked to so many people who, I've even had a couple of people who found me here in London from Stitcherista's video. Can you imagine? They live here in London, and they found out about me through Stitcherista, who is of course down in the States. And I think that's so fun. It is such a small world, isn't it? But anyways, Heidi texted me last week and said, I have to go to Thread and I at some point next week, and there's a few things that I need. Would you like to meet? And would you like to meet at the shop? And I said, of course I'd like to meet at the shop. And we did, and that was yesterday morning. And I wasn't able to spend a lot of time there, so we didn't get to stitch or anything. But I did do a little bit of shopping. And I posted a sneak peek on Instagram yesterday of what I bought. And I'll tell you all about it on Monday. And then I can show you. And I'm so excited about it because it's something that I've been wanting to start for a really long time. So there may be a stitch along coming up with the stuff that, I'm just going to tell you now, but I'll show you again on Monday. I'm not very good at I'm not very good at not telling somebody something. So, and I can't wait. So I'm just going to tell you, I purchased the supplies for the Ink Circles design called Tapestry. And it is just beautiful. I've had the pattern. I think I bought the pattern shortly after it came out. Not too much longer after it was released because, Kathy and Neil know that I have a weak spot for Ink Circles designs, and they generally, and a few of my friends here in town do as well, they generally bring in a few copies for us to, to tempt us. And it worked, and I bought one, and it has sat in my little pile of patterns ever since. And every time I see someone start this design on Instagram or, I think I have to stitch this. I just have to stitch it. The colors are so me. The colors are they're gorgeous. And I'm talking the colors as charted. This is, it's one of Ink Circles designs that uses several colors. It doesn't use just one color of either a variegated or you know what I mean. A lot of the ink circles designs, like the one I did, Cirque de Circle, where it just uses the one color of thread and you do the entire design, which is so fun to do because, never having to reload your needle and just stitch away to your heart's content is super fun. But just something about this tapestry design caught my eye right from the very beginning. And as soon as I actually saw someone actually stitching it, I was sold. I was done. And I'm like, that's it. I have to stitch that. So the pattern has sat in my pile for a while. And when Heidi said she was coming to town, I thought, okay, this is your chance. Now's the time. Kit that up. And I did. And I was thinking I would start it soon, but I'm tempted to hold off and make it, because it's a special piece and I can't wait to do it. I think I might wait and make it my New Year's start, because I'm really looking forward to it. And I'd like for my New Year's start to be a special one. And I think that's a good choice. So I may hold off and wait until then, till New Year's. And I did just start Winter Quakers, and I definitely need to put a few more stitches into that, other than just the teeny tiny little cardinal in the corner. Wasn't that silly? I thought that thumbnail picture that I used for the video was a bit ridiculous because it was this massive piece of fabric and just this itty bitty little bird. Anyway, so funny. But yes, it is pouring with rain here today. It's super gray. It's yucky outside. It's cold. It feels like it should be snowing, but it's right on the edge. So there isn't any snow. It's just rain. And it's cold. And, taking the dogs out is an exercise in, well, love, because, well, I do love them. But it's just so disgusting outside. And then you have to clean off their paws or clean off the floor every single time. And it's a bit of a pain. But see, this is what I like about having it doubled over on itself, is that, I'm down to an itty bitty little bit of thread, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to just do that one last stitch there and make it bend to my will and finish that little bit of space there. Just there. So I've still been working on Sampler Cove's Dido in the morning. And it's coming along slowly but surely. I try to put in, one length of floss at a time, even if I don't have very much time, because I really do want to try and finish that one up. Hoping to have a finish soon. Well, soon is relative. Might be another month, but still, for me, that's soon. And the other thing that I've been doing is I've been working on a shawl, and I mentioned this on Monday. My friend Louise and Louise is another member of the Fiber Friends podcast, and we have a little friendly, I think I have just completely knotted this up somehow. And I was so careful too. I think I, oh dear, what did I do? I'm going to have to fix that after, I think. What the heck? Nope. Not sure what happened here. Oh, made a gigantic mess. See, you came here to stitch with me and I'm untangling thread. That's better. Okay. Um, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, yes, my friendly little bet with Louise. So I had to rewash my yarn because it had been knit a few times in this one pattern that I was trying to do. And it was very kinked up, and it wasn't knitting up very nicely. I'm going to just move my light here a little bit because it really is super dim. I use the heck is this thing called? I don't know. It's a floor lamp that I bought a number of years ago. I don't remember what it's called. And it just sits on the floor, and it sits over, it sits on the floor, and it's got quite a long arm that is movable. Here's the top of it. See? And it's got a magnifier on it, and it's got a whole bunch of LED lights underneath. Now, I never use the magnifier part because, well, I just don't. I don't find that part of it, for me, very useful. But the lights on it are wonderful. Very, very handy. So Louise and I have a bet going. She is working on a shawl that did not work out for her, that she wants to rework and reknit, and I'm working on this other shawl that I had similar problems with. They are two different shawls. Now, my pattern is probably simpler than hers, but mine is a 2 skein of yarn project, and hers is just a 1. So I think it's a fair competition. And I restarted it yesterday morning, and every spare moment that I've had, which hasn't been a lot, but I have made a little bit of time for it. I've been adding a few rows. So sorry, I had to take a little break there to drink a bit of my coffee, because since I have the camera so close to my face, I didn't think that you would really want to listen to me slurping my coffee in your ear. I thought maybe that might be a little rude. So, back at it here. Actually making pretty decent progress on this. I love stitching two-handed. I love being able to quickly, back and forth with the two hands. Oh, now that I've said this, see, slow myself down there. When you start to talk about it and you start to concentrate on it, it's like tempting fate. I have to be careful, and I mentioned this last time, that when I start to move a little faster, that I don't pull my thread too hard, because it does, sort of create a little bit of a line in the fabric there when you pull the linen a little bit too snugly. So, but yeah, I'm quite pleased with how quickly the progress is going on these. And I do love that the Prairie Schoolers do not have back stitching. When you're done, you're done. I think there's just a few more in this row. Yeah. I think I'm going to do the rest of the little tail here. Before I move back And then I won't have to jump over. I think I've got that in the right place. Maybe. Yeah, I think that's right. So I've been talking lately about how I have converted some knitters over into being stitchers, which I love. So my next goal is to maybe see if I can convince a few of you stitchers to give knitting a try. Because I know at least a couple of you have said, when I would show a picture on Instagram of a shawl that I'm working on, and you'll say, oh, I wish I could knit, or that looks really hard, or wow, that's really beautiful. I wish I could do that. Well, let me tell you, it is a ton of fun. It's not hard. There are so many amazing videos online now that will help you learn how to do it. And if you've always wanted to try, then I think you should go for it, because life's too short to not try a few of the things that you've always wanted to learn, and you're never too old to learn, and it's fun. And you can make cozy, warm things. So, I know my friend Craig in Scotland, who is a crocheter and a knitter. I believe that I almost have him ready to give stitching a try. So Craig, if you're watching this, if I can be of any help in any way, maybe send you a little piece of fabric or some threads, you just let me know, and maybe I'll tuck a little care package in the mail for you. Okay, so there's the tail. There's the little tail, and I usually, if I'm going to be crossing over a little distance, I like to anchor my thread in the back so that I don't have, a long length of like a float, what we would call a float in knitting of thread or fabric, thread or yarn that is carried over a distance. I like it to be tucked down and neat in the back. And I'm just going to finish this thread, and then I suspect that's all the time that my family is going to go in for today, because we have a few things going on. I'd rather be stitching, but I guess I need to be a contributing member of this family as well. So I'm hoping I can convince John that tonight would be a really good night to have Swiss chalet for dinner. Do you have Swiss chalet in the States? We have it. It's very, very popular here in Canada. I don't know if you have it in the States. It's a chicken restaurant, like barbecue chicken, rotisserie chicken, I should say, not barbecue. It's rotisserie chicken. Is that the same thing? I don't think so. And every holiday season, every year, they come out with what they call their festive special. And the festive special, it's festive because it comes with cranberry sauce and a box of Lindt Lindor chocolates, those round ones, the really, really yummy ones that are amazing. And you can get a family pack festive special, which comes with a whole rotisserie chicken, 4 sides like salad or French fries. John and I usually get the salad, and then the kids get the fries. And then it also comes with stuffing and cranberry sauce. And then it comes with 4 little mini boxes of these Lindor chocolates. And so each member of the family gets their own individual box. And heaven help you if you eat a chocolate out of someone else's box, because you'll be in big trouble. So I'm thinking that tonight is a good night to not cook, and that maybe it's time for us to order our very first festive special. What do you think? Think I can convince him? I think it's a good idea. All right. One of the dogs is dreaming downstairs, and I can hear, it's Eddie. I can hear him giving little woofs in his sleep. He's so cute. All right, so that's tucked away. I made a little bit of progress on my reindeer backside today. I hope that you also made some progress, and maybe it was just nice to have a little friendly voice in your ear of a fellow stitcher who understands why we do these crazy things that we do. So happy Friday, everybody. I hope you've had a great week, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend ahead and are able to do something this weekend that brings you joy, and put a few stitches in something that you love. And I will see you all on Monday. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for leaving me comments and all of that good stuff. And I'll put in here again, I'll put on the screen the hashtag that we're going to use for the Instagram group. And again, if you're interested in a Facebook group, let me know, and I'll start one of those as well, because it's fun. There you go. I'll see you Monday. Happy stitching.